Good evening, everyone. I hereby announce that pursuant to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the notice which was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and posted on the bulletin board in Township Hall, and filed in the Township Clerk's office on December 11th, 2024. Mayor Preveduto?
Here.
Mr. Foster?
Here.
Ms. LaMountain?
Here.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Here.
Mr. Romano?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Wendy. If everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence, please, for the men and women in uniform that keep us safe at home and abroad. Thank you. All right. Before we get to the final adoption discussion of the ordinance, let's address bills payable. Wendy?
This would be for for Resolution 2024-283, which is the bills payable. Motion?
Moved. Second.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Preveduto?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-283 has been successfully passed. Thank you.
So there's a few things we're going to want to address this evening before we move on to final adoption of the ordinance. The first, we're going to have a little bit of an explanation or discussion on some of the recommendations that came from the planning board last night, and there are a few things that I want to do to just sort of recap how we got here and what we're looking to move forward with. But with that said, before I get to that point, I do want to propose a motion to move public comment up before the vote. This way, those in the public have an opportunity to speak their minds before we cast our votes on this.
Move.
Second.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Preveduto?
Yes. So thank you, Wendy. Do we have Kendra dialed in, Mike? Yes. I'm not sure if anyone's going to be able. Kendra, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yes, I can there. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to try to do something here. Let's see if this works. Kendra, would you mind, actually, you know what? Let me reverse course for a minute. Bear with me 1 minute, Kendra. Before we get to the planning board recommendations, I want to just sort of recap how we got here for the public, for folks that maybe haven't been paying as close attention as they are now. At the beginning of the year, we were very clear that we were going to operate with a level of urgency around this project. And we were also going to operate with absolute transparency along the way as well. And we've done so. We stood up an ad hoc committee. We have been proactive in our communications. There's been a public presentation by the property owners. There have been multiple opportunities for the public to weigh in with their thoughts and considerations around the project as well. And along the way, as we were looking to sort of find, I always say it's kind of like threading a needle with something like this. We considered many different options, and many of them came out of the ad hoc committee. There was an option for higher education, for a distribution center, for a storage center, townhomes, and then one that I think has piqued some folks' interest was indoor recreation. So as you can understand, it's not the right spot for a distribution center or a storage center or 400 townhomes. We're also operating with what I call a proverbial gun to our heads with the affordable housing mandate that's come down the pike. Early in the year, our COA attorney said this could be a spot for 600 to 800 apartments. And if I'm gonna wave me off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. Yeah,
All right.
it's better we not.
Don't get into it now because
We obviously have to consider the fourth round, and there's a lot of considerations that go into it. Many of which we have to talk about in private because it's an ongoing process, and we'll be dealing with it going into
I'm getting
next
myself
year,
in
but
trouble already.
That's,
So
that's okay.
it's the last meeting of the year. I guess
Nothing,
at this point.
nothing.
Too transparent.
That's there you go.
Nothing folks didn't already
So,
figure.
but one thing that's picked up, I think, a little, what's piqued interest is an indoor recreation center. It was something that many of us actually thought could have been interesting. But the reality of an indoor recreation center, I just want to address it now because I've heard from some folks over the past couple of weeks. An indoor recreation center of that size, and we've spoken to many people about this, and look, at the end of the day, it's a 350,000 square foot building. Just do the math. If someone purchased the property for $25 million, it would cost $100 a square foot to retrofit it for recreation. Now they're into the property for $60 million before they even get their first check in the door. Okay, so if they're going to make it economically feasible, then you're going to need an intense amount of interest in that facility, which means that probably during the week from 4 to 7 every day, you're dealing with 1,000 more cars on 520, which would basically mean 520 would have to be a 4-lane road. And that doesn't count weekends where these things would be occupied, 8 in the morning till 10 at night. So, not only do the economics of a recreation center not work, the traffic and the infrastructure impact do not work. So as we sort of wound into what fits here and what works, there were many discussions and there were accommodations made along the way. We're getting 5 acres to put a fire and EMS hub down in South Homedale, which is desperately needed. We still expect to increase buffers, decrease impervious coverage, and make sure that this fits the aesthetic of the town. A CCRC also has low impact to infrastructure. We anticipate low impact to infrastructure, low impact to traffic. And just to reassure once again, anything done here is going to meet the maximum standard for safety and environmental consideration as well. So my over-speaking a little bit on that one part, I apologize. I'm getting in trouble in my last meeting. This was not taken lightly in any way, shape, or form. We have solicited feedback whenever we could. We have been completely transparent from the beginning. This was not rushed, but it was met with urgency. So with all that said, I wanted to just sort of recap how we got here for those that, again, maybe weren't as attentive at the beginning as they are now, just to understand where we are and why we're here. So now, with that said, there were recommendations made by the planning board last night, and we have our Kendra Lilly, our planner for this project, on the phone right now. So I'm going to put the microphone here and hope she can. Hope everybody hears it. Kendra, can you speak and make sure everybody hears you?
Sure. Testing. Can everybody hear me?
Guys, good. Yep, I'm getting nods.
Okay, great. I apologize. I'm losing my voice. So I will try to make it short, but also consistent, and you guys can hear me. So, Mayor, yes, and council member, committee members, the planning board reviewed the Vonage redevelopment plan on the 17th of December, 2 days ago. They found that the redevelopment plan to be consistent with your master plan. However, there were 3 specific recommendations for the township committee's consideration, which, in accordance with the redevelopment and housing law, they have every right to provide recommendations to the township committee. I'm going to go through them quickly, and then I'll just indicate my thoughts as to opinions as to what those recommendations mean to the redevelopment plan. The first was to relocate the assisted living building from outside the ring road to inside the ring road, adjacent to the senior rental building. The second was to provide that the maximum lot coverage requirement be for all impervious surfaces, not just the principal buildings. Currently, the plan reads that the maximum lot coverage for principal buildings shall not exceed 15%. And then the third recommendation was that there should be a permitted use for an indoor recreation use. Mayor, you just talked a bit about that. But specifically as it relates to the relocation of the assisted living building, let me back up for a second. As the township committee is certainly aware, the professionals as well as members of the township committee and the attorneys have worked with the owner or potential future developer of the site for many months now on the details on the plan for the layout of this property. And there is a concept plan, a very specific concept plan that's submitted, as an appendix to the redevelopment plan. And while I totally agree that the planning board had well thought out comments, I believe the recommendations are not tenable and impracticable at this time. Specifically, the relocation of the assisted living building is a substantial change. To move an entire building into the inner workings of the inner ring road, I think would be a substantial change to the concept plan and would upend the redevelopment plan that we've worked hard to get to at this point. I also believe, and it's my opinion, that the lot coverage, the language that's in the redevelopment plan currently, that it's sufficient for the purpose of managing what the total building coverage would be on the lot. I don't have any concerns that it has a different meaning in the redevelopment plan from what your existing ordinance, your land use ordinances are. This redevelopment plan stands as its own redevelopment plan, its own zoning ordinance, and it will rule as it relates to the lot coverage for just the principal buildings not exceeding 15%, and don't really believe that we need an impervious coverage limitation at this point. And then finally, just to piggyback, Mayor, on your comments, I think allowing for a full indoor recreation use taking up the existing building would be a totally separate redevelopment plan. As we all know, the overall use of the property is a senior living community, and it's being designed as such and has a concept plan as such. And so, in my opinion, it would require a separate redevelopment plan to allow for that principal use. And that's all the comments I have.
Thank you, Kendra. Appreciate that. So I think all that said, hold on. Sure. So our planner has to leave at 6. I was wondering if the committee has any questions before we move on to public comment for Kendra. All right, we're good there. So Kendra, if you don't mind hanging on for a bit, I know you've got about 20 minutes left, but we're going to open this up now for public comment before we get into the vote. So with that, we have members of the public. Mr. Yanello, first up.
Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive. As I've said extensively here, I was on the Vonage Committee. We've considered a lot of things, and as I've said many times, I think this is an okay plan. But from day one when I met Bill, and from day one when I discussed it with you and the committee, one of my key fixations has been the package treatment plant, and it remains a fixation of mine and many people in the community. And during the planning board meeting, other details have come out, a lot of other, as I said at the last meeting here, we have some very smart people, connected people in town. A lot more research has been done on that treatment plant. And I actually toured it a week before our first meeting on that committee. I went there and I never even knew about that and the retention basin. And I'm not an expert, and these people aren't sworn testimony, but I think any rational person would say that that retention basin isn't draining. It could be problematic. The idea of pumping 15,000 gallons a day onto the grass to percolate, not the best thought, but I and other people have very significant concerns about the package treatment plant, the retention basin, the stream nearby. We're apparently going to be grandfathered in from 300 to 150. And as we move forward, if you guys vote on this, you don't want to be the committee that destroyed the drinking water for 300,000 people. We don't want to have clusters 20 years down the road and your name's all over it. So we need to take that really seriously. I know I sound like a broken record, but again, more details have come out, more pretty logical details. And I think as we move forward, if we do move forward, we can't slip up on this. It's for real. Thank you.
And we're in agreement. This has come up many times, Jay, as you have mentioned. I mean, there's going to be no scrimping of standards here, right, as it applies to what needs to be done. That's for sure. And we're going to put the due rigor around this to make sure that this thing is safe, and that that we're not damaging the environment or drinking water or in any way, shape, or form harming the folks that rely on this area. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Blumenthal.
Good evening, Ralph Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. Happy holidays to you all, and happy end of the year and all that goes with it. Hopefully we'll see you all again in the new year and see what there. My comment is with regard to the second recommendation from the planning board. I believe you need to take that one a little more seriously. It's a little different from the others. I can appreciate why you're maybe not accepting the other two. The copy of the redevelopment plan that's here on the On the last row on page 9 of the chart is maximum lot coverage by primary structures. It has different numbers for each of the columns. They're not all the same. Lot coverage is a ratio. You've got to have a definition of both parts. What's the numerator? How do you define the coverage for a structure? Does it include auxiliary things? Does it include adjacent parking, sidewalks? We have none of that currently for this kind of thing in our regs. There is a statement in here that all other things refer to our development regs. And moreover, their denominator is undefined. In our normal definition, you would take the lot coverage is not just buildings, but parking, sidewalks, and there's definitions in history of what that means by pervious and impervious, what wetlands get counted, and how that whole thing works. So this, to me, just it's a technical thing. It makes no sense. She said 15%. That's not what's in this document. So, I mean, it was discussed at the planning board. She said maybe 15% for the total. You've got to take into account the 5 acres that's being subtracted, any additional frontage that's being cut off for the county, because both roads are county roads. So I think this is a technical thing that really ought to get fixed to be consistent with the rest of the development regs and to have a number that's meaningful. The numbers here are not meaningful. Thank you.
I'm not sure if you were able to hear any of that. Were you?
I did. I heard it.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on that? Not to put you too much on the spot, but you're the expert.
No, for sure. So I totally understand the comment. I have no concerns with the interpretation of lot coverage of the principal buildings, the maximum lot coverage of the principal buildings. It's pretty self-explanatory, not exceeding 15%. We know what the denominator is. It's the lot size of the parcel. So I don't have any concerns that it doesn't match up with your existing ordinance. It's its own requirement, just like the entire redevelopment plan has some very specific requirements as it relates to this lot. So again, I don't have any concerns with the interpretation of what lot coverage of the principal building means in this circumstance.
Yeah, but how do you explain that? 15% is not a number that's in this document.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't hear that part.
You said 15% is not a number in this document?
It's a revised draft. We had decreased the lot the principal building lot coverage
It's
to 15%, and that was what was presented to the planning board.
15% was presented. To the
That's not being presented here, though.
It is being presented here. That was the plan.
This was on the counter here.
This is what was at the handout.
Okay. Well, that is an error. There were revisions. The only revisions that were made to the redevelopment plan were specifically to address the concern, Mr. Blumenthal, that you had raised at the last township committee meeting. Those were presented to the planning board. We do regret if there was any error in the specific document that was provided with this agenda, but there were minor revisions made to that document, as is permissible between ordinance readings when there's a minor change. So we took your specific comment into consideration. And the only other thing I would add is that I would imagine we'll have a more specific concept plan that would be incorporated into the redevelopment agreement, which is a further safeguard that will ensure that the development is consistent with expectations.
Shouldn't the public have access to the correct document?
They do. It was with the planning board documents that the public's had
Well,
access to it for 2 days.
Well-
What was on the counter in this room tonight?
So there was an
This is
error
original.
there was an error in printing. Okay? There was
And-
an error in what the handout is. The document is publicly available online, and if we need to re-upload it or distribute it, we can
Yeah.
do so on
Was
the
it revised online?
The planning board, Mr. Blumenthal, the planning board had access to the revision that was made essentially in response to your comment at the last meeting. So your comment was addressed. So
Well, the public was not made aware of that.
The public has been abundantly aware of that. Mr. Trisquita. That's about as transparent as it gets. Mr. Trisquita.
Patrick Trisquita, 56 Line Road. Homedale's population is 17,400, where 3,700 are over the age of 65. Homedale's senior population exceeds the number of children in our schools. Our senior population is expected to grow in the coming years, while the number of children is actually expected to decrease due to lower birth rates. The Vonage redevelopment plan provides an opportunity to Homedale seniors to continue to live in Homedale and receive long-term health care while staying close to their children and grandchildren during their later years. Combined with the Bayshore Medical Center and other nearby medical facilities, seniors can continue to live in Homedale their entire lives and enjoy everything that Homedale has to offer, including its great parks and open space, Bellworks, and PNC. In addition, the plan, 5 acres of land deeded to Homedale on 520 for a combined fire EMS building is a major benefit of this plan that benefits all Homedale residents. Making the Vonage property useful again is in Homedale's best interest. Leaving the Vonage property vacant and useless is not an option. This redevelopment plan is good for Homedale. Yesterday, I walked the property and looked at the sewage treatment plant in the back of the property. I didn't smell anything from the sewage treatment plant. I heard the pumps running quietly, and it seemed to be working. I didn't see any area devoid of life. I saw plenty of deer and a rabbit. Walking on the grass in the front, I didn't see nor smell any effluent, as was said at the planning meeting, on the grass. Though I did see a lot of deer droppings on the grass. In summary, the redevelopment plan is good for Homedale. Let us proceed, address any issues that come up with the facilities in the back, and proceed and do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Ellen Rubenstein, 10 Stillwell Drive. I was extremely concerned about the same issues being discussed with the water. Okay. Is that okay?
Not everybody's as comfortable up there, Jay, as you are.
You have to put your mouth on the thing. Okay. I've been extremely concerned with the sewage treatment. I understand that's being addressed. I hope it's being carefully addressed. Another major concern I have is on the other end. We had a drought. We've had drought warnings. There are lots of places in the country where this is an issue. It looks like it's starting to hit us. We have no idea what's going to happen next summer, but I wouldn't be surprised if we have similar drought warnings. And of course, we don't know what the future will bring. But from where we stand right now, I'm worried about where all this water is going to come from to take care of this chunk of an increase in population. And I know that there were workers there, and you know the buildings were filled with people, but there's a big difference between 24/7 and 8 hours a day, particularly the type of circumstances that'll be there, like lots of laundry. You know, there's a lot more water use with this kind of facility. So that's the concern I wanted to bring up now.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your concern. I think Homedale and Monmouth County in general have been dealing with explosive growth over the past couple of decades. We, as a governing body, are working hard to limit, high density developments and things of that nature as we can. In certain aspects such as this, there are things you do that work for the town, and that sort of, as I said earlier, thread that needle. We can't account for the abundance or lack thereof of drinking water in general. It's a bit out of our realm, but I understand your concerns, and we'll see how we move forward.
I mean, just, I don't know how the systems work. I don't pretend to know, but are there, you know, where is all our water coming from? Are there potential emergency sources to tap into, and how would that be set up? Because you don't want to build a thing and have it filled, and then you've got a crisis.
Yeah, I don't anticipate this development causing an issue in that regard as a standalone sort of thing. I mean, I think, like I said, just the overall explosive growth across the county is something that everybody's looking at, but this is, in comparison to the county itself, not a significant number, just in fairness.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public? I see you getting itchy, Lance. Bless you.
How we doing? Lance Loopy, Line Road. I don't really have a good handle on all this, but I did watch the meeting the other night. So we're going to get a firehouse, right? So I have a question. Didn't we close a firehouse right next door to that location several years ago?
Long time ago. Yeah.
Okay. And then we just built a new one here to satisfy that deficiency that we didn't have one over there. So we're going to build a third one. We were down to one. Then we're to two. Now we're going to be at three?
Yeah, we think there's so I can't speak to the particulars about why the one was shut down, whatever it was, a decade ago. We don't own that property anymore. I don't know, DJ, if you want to jump in. But
No, I just want to clarify, it wasn't shut down because it wasn't needed. There was a lot of, that's a
I know
whole
that,
nother
yes,
story that you
I'm
could
simplifying
research and everything,
things,
but
yes, I'm
just for the
simplifying
record,
it.
it was never closed because
Right.
it wasn't necessary for
But then
the south side of
we
Homedale. So
rebuilt
just
this
to be
one
clear.
to supplement that need.
We're not there yet. I think you're getting a little ahead of yourself, but
Okay.
that would
Lots of
be a
questions.
great thing for the township to have that,
Not
that,
saying more
that
safety
capability or
wouldn't
to
be
have
great.
that availability on that
Absolutely.
side of town.
Not disagreeing, I'm just asking questions.
Yeah,
Just trying to
no, but
understand.
I just want to clarify. That's
Okay.
important to know that that was not closed because it wasn't necessary.
Okay. But again, we just spent a lot of money to build this one to
Yep.
mitigate the deficiency that we had, that we didn't have one on this side of the town.
we did, and I
Right.
think, and by the way, I think the our firefighters in the facility has worked very well. We do think there is still a need in Southern Homedale for support,
Okay.
which is where this stemmed from.
Fair enough. I listened to the meeting the other night. I heard only one or two comments here tonight, but I heard a lot of comments the other night. I listened to some of the commentary and questions from the planning board the other night. And to me, it seems as if we're settling. So now, I don't remember everyone's mailers that came out, but everyone sitting on that dais when they ran to be elected to sit up there, I don't remember anyone running on the platform of elect me and I'll do an okay job, and elect me and I'll come up with mediocre solutions to the town's problems. I think that everyone up there was elected because everyone thought they were going to do the best for the town. So I would ask everyone up there, when you make this vote, is this the best solution for the town, or is this just a, okay, it's good enough, it's better than nothing type solution? So I hope that we're thinking of what's best for the town, and taking into consideration all the concerns of CLU and all the residents that have raised questions and concerns.
Absolutely, and I think
And I'm not saying anyone isn't, I'm
Sure.
just saying that I hope that that's your mindset.
No, and that's the standard with which we operate, right? And I think, I've said it before too. Every one of us up here has taken land use in this town to an excruciating level of severity, right? It's why we've captured property over the past couple of years, starting with DJ when we got Crawford Hill, and we've now purchased the property next to St. Catharines, and there's some others on tap that we're looking at. So we're very particular about land use in Homedale. When looking at this particular situation, given everything we've evaluated and everything we've seen, this is the best possible solution that we could come up with. Very simply, and in part because every other solution we looked at either overly taxed our infrastructure, was inappropriate. So overly taxed our infrastructure, 400 townhomes, right? Of, not age restricted, all that kind of stuff, right? So when you think about the townhome component and things of that nature, you're taxing the schools, you're taxing the infrastructure, you're covering that entire property, right? So that, from our perspective, did not work. I've worn it on my sleeve. I was a big proponent of higher education going there. That would have been pretty interesting, right? That didn't work out, right, with the options that were on the table. And then we get into, again, the types of uses around Monmouth County that are more popular now, like distribution centers, storage centers, warehousing, things of that nature, which again, that's an inappropriate, we feel, an inappropriate use or inappropriate uses for that property themselves. What's that?
I would agree.
Okay. And then, as I mentioned earlier, because I know some folks have gotten particular interest in it, a recreation center is also problematic for us from an infrastructure standpoint, traffic, and just the economics don't work, right? So nobody's ever bid on it for indoor recreation. And office space, commercial office space, as most people know at this point, maybe it'll come back in a couple of years, but it's still not. So given everything on the table, the accommodations made, like the 5 acres, increasing buffers and things of that nature, and expecting to reduce impervious coverage, this is the best possible solution we could have for the property.
Okay. Is there a pilot
Yeah.
associated with this?
Yep.
Are we going to do a better job with this pilot? Because some of the former people that used to sit on this dais didn't seem to do a good job with the Bellworks pilot, with the allocations of funds to the town and other things. And I may be not speaking completely with good knowledge of it, but based on some of the meetings I've been at, it seems as if there were some issues with that.
Issues
Well,
in a way.
I recall a couple meetings where there was questions about the money that was supposed to be set aside and reserved for the town from the pilot. And again, I may be speaking incorrectly, but
There's no
one of your predecessors
Okay.
claimed went up there, and we can go back to the minutes and look at it, that
Yeah.
there was not a good job done with that process. So I hope that we have a better handle.
Well,
on that
I
this
mean, look,
time around.
I can't speak to the. I
Of
just
course,
can't
you
speak to the
past.
specifics.
Of course, I'm just making sure that
yeah.
we're preparing ourselves properly for future.
No, I think we are.
I mean, personally, I don't like the pilot program, but whatever, it is what it is. And
Yep. It's look, I'll say this: we expect it to be a pilot. We expect to, as we've done, handle the money responsibly. I'm not clear on sort of what the statement was that you're referencing. I'm just not, Lance. I'm sorry. I don't-
that's fine. Fair enough.
So I can't.
I don't have enough facts to say, but I do recall someone sitting up there, and there was a question from the audience about pilot, and
Okay.
there was some concern that we didn't properly allocate funds.
Okay.
And-
Look, we did that whole stay at home Dell thing back in April, so everyone knows exactly where the money goes and where it's coming from. We'll continue to be transparent about those things.
Okay.
And we'll continue to use that money for improvements to the town. The schools have asked us to kick in, which we've done to the tune of nearly $500,000 this year from OpEx and capital expenditure. So I think we'll just continue to be transparent and operate that way. And
it might have been around the schools. I don't recall exactly. It was probably a year or two ago
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so we're going to continue.
when someone that's not here anymore sat up there.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll continue to be transparent about where everybody's money's going, where all the money's
And
going.
why no single-family homes on that property?
Well, they're independent living homes for older.
I know. Why
Oh.
not just single-family homes
As
the solution?
because again, the economics of it didn't work. We looked at that too. I mean, listen. What would have been kind of amazing, right? Is you have I don't know what 8 homes on 10 acres, right, or something to that effect. It just doesn't make it doesn't. There's not enough money. There's not enough money for a developer to make off of something like that. And that was the other economic component that we talked about.
Is our concern what someone's investment is? I didn't tell them to buy that property.
No, but it wasn't about them. It's about what's going to work and who's going to want to do it, right? Nobody wants to do it for that. The only developers that we had spoken to that had any option to make it work would have been an abundance of townhomes that covered the property.
I mean, but again, back to my point of it's not our problem that they made that investment.
And we're not, of course it's not.
Right. So, so why are we, it seems as if we're bowing to their will to say, well,
No, we're
this
not.
is I mean, we still get the taxes on that land, right? Sits there vacant, doesn't sit there vacant.
Sure. But that it doesn't, we're not gonna,
The taxes have gone down tremendously
Right.
through
Okay.
tax appeals
Fine.
during the building's vacancy.
Right.
it's been cut
Which
cut
is
in
a
half.
component of why it qualified for redevelopment
Right.
designation.
So is what you're proposing to let the property sit and hope that someone buys it to put 10
I'm
houses
just
there?
saying that, I mean, again, it seems like we're settling because we're saying right now there's not a better opportunity than this opportunity, right? Out of all the opportunities that may be available, warehouse space, retail, whatever, we're saying that right now the presented option of doing this is the best solution. But it's
So-
not the only solution, and it's really not the best solution. It's just the best of what's available.
Well, I got in trouble for saying it earlier, so I'll say it a little bit more carefully.
Okay.
Leaving the property vacant and hoping can't be an option for us. It can't be an option for us.
What is it costing us to do that?
It's not about what it's going to cost us, it's about what we're going to have to deal with if we don't, I don't want to get in trouble here, Mike. We're in litigation
Okay,
with the state of New Jersey.
gotcha. Okay, yeah, understood.
Okay.
Okay, you don't have to.
Okay.
I think I got where you're headed with that.
Yeah, that's my point.
Okay.
Okay, so again, we operated with urgency, given all the conditions in front of us and given all the considerations we had to take
But
into
doesn't that
place.
still have to play itself out?
What's that?
Doesn't that still have to play itself out?
Yeah, but
That litigation
but,
is not.
Yeah, but in the meantime, mandates come down, right? Like, does it just because we're in litigation doesn't mean we're going to win,
True.
right? So, we've got to. I'm trying to. You're killing me,
I
Mike.
think, Mayor, if I can.
I'm trying not to get
jump
myself in trouble here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the considerations we've put a lot of effort into is what is the risk of waiting?
There you go.
And do you want to be able to have control over the destiny, or do you want to leave it to uncertainty? Where's the greater risk? And in going through working with the ad hoc committee, listening and evaluating different options, and really who's come forward, I'm of the same perception. I would love to see that property used for higher education. I would love to see that property used as a golf course.
Yeah.
We don't have anybody. We don't have anybody coming forward and saying that's how we're going to use it. So what's plan that way? What's plan B? Do we, again, figure out how to maintain some sort of control, or do we throw caution to the wind? And in considering all of that, at this juncture, we seem to have a plan going forward that is in the best interest of Homedale. So,
And Kim, I think it's a good point. I think, Lance, just to assess the risk, I think just look at Wall and Colts Neck and what's happened there. Right? I mean, so that's what we see when things are left undecided, or left to chance. So yes, I think Kim's right. And this is in the best interest of the town. This is the best option, the most suitable option for the space.
And then if I could just interject, again, Lance, and I appreciate everything you're saying because you're speaking as a concerned citizen, and I respect that. But I also don't think you should say like that. What's like you're kind of saying what you're doing is not what's best for Homedale. I don't think it's fair for you to say that when you don't know all the facts and you don't know
You're correct.
everything that we know. And I think it's important to have your opinion. And I respect your opinion, and but to say or to kind of criticize us in that respect that we're not doing the best thing for Homedale. It's hard. I can't accept you saying that because you're
that's
saying
fair.
it without
That's why
all
we're
the
here.
facts. Yeah,
That's why we're here,
Yeah.
right? To
So,
have that debate
of
and that
course.
conversation. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just, and I don't know all the facts. Absolutely.
May-
Don't disagree.
how long has that building been vacant? It's been a couple of years, hasn't
I think
it?
since COVID. I think since COVID.
Nurses were the only ones in there during COVID.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's been
4 years.
I'm going to say about 4 years.
Yeah.
That's it's a big length of time.
Yeah. So it sat for a while. I guess it seems fast to other folks, but this started materializing last August, and we're 16 months in, really, on this whole thing. And like I said, given the conditions of what's going on around the state and the county, and given the options available to us, I think we believe it's the best option for the town.
Okay. Fair
Happy,
enough.
listen, happy to have the debate. I'm a little off my game today, so I apologize. But you're obviously always welcome with whatever thoughts. But that's where we sit.
Thank you, and no offense meant to anyone. I just want to, make sure that we're doing the best thing and not just settling for something.
Yeah.
And if everyone up there feels that this is okay.
Yeah.
On behalf of the town,
Okay.
we would never settle on anything. I mean, I know I wouldn't.
hope not.
You know,
That's-
I
that's-
wouldn't,
that's
and
why-
nobody up here would.
That's it.
What's that?
Yeah.
We live here too.
I know. I just I hope that I hope not.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? We'll close public comment.
This motion will be for the final adoption of ordinance 2422, which is an ordinance adopting redevelopment plan for the property identified as Block 13, Lot 15 on the tax map of the Township of Homedale and commonly known as 23 Main Street, Homedale, New Jersey, 07733.
Do I have a motion to,
Moved. Second.
Mr. Foster?
Yes, Wendy, I believe this is the best option before us at this time, and I'm looking forward to moving forward very carefully, slowly, making sure all our Ts are crossed, Is are dotted. Yes.
Ms. LaMountain?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes, and again, looking at the planning board's recommendations and then having the opportunity to speak with the planner and her recommendations on why these aren't a viable option at this time, which I respect, and I appreciate the planning board's job that they did, and unfortunately, like I said, they just don't, they were good options and probably things that we maybe even thought of, but did not fit into this redevelopment plan. And again, a lot of work has gone into this, a lot of time, and I do feel strongly that this redevelopment plan for Homedale is the best option for this property, so I'm a yes.
Mr. Romano?
Yes.
Mayor Impreviduto?
I'm just going to say yes, because I talked enough tonight.
Thank you. Okay, ordinance 2024-22 has been successfully passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. I think that's it. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No more public comments, Mayor?
Public comment, it was moved up.
We did it purposely.
It was moved up.
We moved it.
Yeah.
We're